Hello, my name is Margie Johnson, and today I'll be giving you a summary of my research paper that is entitled Motivation in the Workplace. Motivation is a key factor in the workplace. Employees have various desires and drives and needs that propel their behavior forward or don't propel their behavior forward. And as a manager, it's highly important that we consider what our employees need, how they think, what their take is on various changes and fluctuations within the company, and that then we help consider what we can do to motivate them. But it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's not a clear, cut and dry, one size fits all type of setting. Motivation is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid that talks about when we need something, we will go after it if the need is great enough. Shelter, safety, food, things that we need, we tend to do what it takes to get. This can also expand, though, further into compensation, the need for performance or acceptance. And these rewards or these things that we're after can be intrinsic rewards, or extrinsic rewards. And we're motivated in different ways at different times, different seasons, different jobs or settings. And so managers who are in touch with their staff, they will quickly learn the needs and the expectations of their employees and how they can best serve them in their particular setting. So they have to understand, managers have to seek to understand employees and what drives them. One of the articles I read, the author's last name was Fowler, and he talks a lot about what it is that a highly motivated employee looks like. I found this very interesting. Here are the characteristics, he said, of a highly motivated employee. Number one, they stay. Number two, they talk highly of the organization. Three, they are careful in the way they protect the organization. They use high moral behaviors. And lastly, they exhibit a superior work ethic. This is a really beautiful picture, I think, of what we're after as managers, employers. And when we see those things lacking, it should cause us to pause and consider the individual, the setting, all of the factors that make up motivation. In some of the research that I read, one kind of overarching issue that researchers have found affect motivation is peer pressure. And some of the experiments that were done, they did something where two people worked side by side so they could see one another working, and they found that productivity went up when they could see one another working. Of course, we can imagine that would provide a higher level of accountability. You're less likely to slack off because it's almost like a race, right? You've got to perform. And peer pressure also, there was another scenario where they isolated various employees, and then so they weren't working together, but then they would post the results for their data that was entered in a public place. And there was this idea there that it would motivate, because we wanted to show our best stuff because everyone was going to see our results. But on top of that, shame was a factor. The study showed that the idea of shame was really an emotion that employees wanted to avoid when being observed. And so they would do what they could to move in that direction that was desired. This has been extended to public schools, to schools as well, where they post the results of tests and things of that nature. And students are affected by that. They're often motivated to move in the direction that is desired, a desired score or something of that nature. With regard to peer pressure, there was another idea, this idea of the negative quality peer effect. And in this situation, feedback from a peer was considered an influencer of motivation. While feedback didn't increase performance overall, it did decrease the performance of low performers' work, which could be an awareness of mistakes and is directly related to the decrease in the quality of effort. Now, I find this really interesting because I think that when you almost would think it would be the opposite. But what happens is when I hear there are mistakes and I get this feedback, it has a negative connotation or a feel. I get this negative sense of I'm making mistakes, and low performers tend to back off and not do as well as you might think that they would. So I think it's a very interesting thing, and I cited this at the end of my paper. I think more research could be done on this. It could help us as managers, even when we have to give radical candor, we have to give feedback. And what does that look like? Where's the line of what will motivate and what will demotivate employees? And speaking of demotivating, there are some problems, some motivational problems in the workplace. A couple of studies that I found, one was on particularly on the implementation of new technologies. And oftentimes, like any other change, there are people that shy away from that. Maybe there are older employees that you have that don't want to learn another program or new database, or there's a new filing system and it feels like it's too much, or there's, a new machine or something that has to be learned. And oftentimes technology can scare away an entire demographic of those who just don't want to, it feels intimidating to them. Also, another problem in motivation at times, and this particularly interesting article was on cyber loafing, which I think that term is so interesting, but that within the workplace at times there's wasted time because of easy access to the internet, which could be a company issue that needs to tighten. It's interesting too, it found that the oldest generation had zero problems because they were all business. They're not looking at internet as a personal application at all. The youngest, the millennials, they were able to do it beautifully. They could work business and they could work pleasure on the internet both simultaneously because that's the way they've grown up. It's that middle generation that might really struggle, and you think, okay, so I think I can balance it, but the middle generation really struggled. And so cyber loafing was a real kind of sucked the life out of many of that generation, which I thought was very interesting. There are also, um, because of time, I won't be able to finish telling you some of these, but they were very, very interesting. And overall, the bottom line for motivation in the workplace is that the manager have a full understanding of his people, her people, and what they need. Try some different things, be aware of problems in the workplace, and just continue to understand in the particular situation a particular type of motivation that can be used, trial and error, but attunement is key for managers. So thank you for giving me these few minutes. I look forward to reading your feedback, and it's been a great semester. Thank you.